Hello everyone, I am Tolibjan Yuldashev. In previous videos, we talked about qualitative and quantitative research. In qualitative research, the researcher is interested in the people's opinions, beliefs, and experiences. We talked about the fact that the researcher cannot show the idea or cannot show the quantitative analysis in a numerical form or in a statistical form. So researchers show these interview findings in their paper in a narrative form. So before we start going into the details, let's talk about these two terms, findings and results. Although these words can be used in research paper interchangeably, in my experience, I have seen that for qualitative data, researchers tend to use the word findings. Meanwhile, results are used for statistical data. So when you did quantitative analysis, you write the word results. So, but for bachelor's degree or master's degree, I don't think journal editors or the supervisors will be judging you for these two terms. So this is not a big deal for you, but if you are submitting your paper to something highly influential journal, then you may consider this small change or small choice of words. Okay, now let's imagine that the researcher had this research question. What challenges do people associate with bottled water consumption? So in the researcher's area, people are drinking bottled water and they're not drinking tap water, or maybe they're having the mixture of both. And the researcher is interested what kind of difficulties are faced by the people. So in order to know this, the researcher conducts interview with the people around him, so in this location. So you can interview maybe hundreds of people or maybe thousands of people, but for our video, in order to just show it, let's imagine that the researcher had interviewed 10 participants, and each participant answered differently here. So the first step is to collect this kind of raw data, so recording their voices and transferring them into a written form, or maybe taking notes when you are doing the interview. So let's read their answers and we'll move on to the next step. So let's say participant says, well, honestly, I buy bottled water almost every day, but it's getting expensive. A few years ago, it wasn't a problem, but now I spend quite a lot of money on it. So participant 1 is facing the challenge, the price challenge, let's say. Participant 2 says, I know plastic bottles are not great for the environment. Sometimes I feel guilty when I throw them away. Okay, so participant 2 is thinking about the recycling, or maybe when he or she throws the plastic bottle into trash, he feels guilty about the environment. So here's a feeling of guilt. Participant 3 says, the biggest issue for me is probably plastic waste. Everywhere you go, you can see empty bottles. More like the same question, the same answer with participant 2. So the participant 3 is facing with plastic waste everywhere. So this is the biggest issue for him. Participant 4 says, I don't always trust the quality of tap water, so I buy bottled water even though it costs more. So I think here participant 4 is thinking about his own health. So here health or safety is mainly being discussed. So he doesn't trust the tap water because he thinks tap water quality is not good. So he's thinking about his health or safety. That's why he's buying bottled waters, regardless of the cost. Participant 5 says, sometimes I wonder whether bottled water is actually healthier than tap water. I'm not really sure. So the challenge with bottled water, he is buying bottled water. He thinks that bottled water is better, but anyway, he has got some reservations about the bottled water. So participant 6 says, the problem is that there are not enough recycling bins near my workplace. It turns out, so we can understand that participant 6 drinks bottled water at work and then he doesn't have enough recycling facilities near his workplace. Participant 7 says, well, carrying large bottles home from the supermarket can be inconvenient. Yeah, so this is something that we do every day. We buy large bottles from the supermarket, and transporting from the supermarket to the to our house can be very like tiring job. Participant 8 says, I think companies use too much plastic packaging. Okay, so the problem with the plastic bottles may be so participant 8 thinks that companies are using too much plastic. Participant 9, the prices keep increasing every year. So it's clear. Participant 9 is talking about prices. Participant 10, I'd probably drink less bottled water if public drinking fountains were more common. Here the problem is with accessibility, I think, because there is no tap water, or because there are no public drinking fountains in the area, he is drinking bottled water. This problem could be saved by placing some public drinking fountains in the area. So this is our raw interview data. Why I'm calling this raw? Because we cannot just copy and paste this one into our paper. It would be too much. Imagine you interviewed more than 30 people and you have got lots of water. So, lots of words. What can we do next? So the next is called coding. We need to code participants' ideas into something short and understandable. For example, participant 1 was talking about high cost. Participant 2 was feeling guilty about the environment, so we wrote it environmental guilt. Participant 3, we wrote plastic waste. So you need to keep the idea short and put this kind of codes. Once you have coded all the message here, it becomes easier for you to categorize. For example, let's look at these categories below and like how I categorize these codes. For example, high cost, participant 1, and participant 9, rising prices, are both about the price and cost. Even if they are using different words, these are the financial problems that the participants are facing. So high cost and rising prices are categorized as financial concerns. So the environmental guilt, plastic waste, and excessive packaging are put into one umbrella called environmental concerns. Excessive tap water distrust, health uncertainty, this too is put into the umbrella term called health and safety concerns. And the last one, lack of recycling, carrying inconvenience, need drinking fountains, these three are put into the accessibility issues category. So when you did this coding, it becomes easy for you to put these ideas into categories. Therefore, let's say from the first raw data, you need to code them, then categorize them. After that, you can think some ideas, some themes for these categories. For example, how can you represent financial concerns in your own article? For example, here we can say environmental concerns and accessibility issues. So these accessible issues and environmental concerns can be named as barriers to sustainable water consumption. Financial concerns can be themed as economic factors influencing consumer choices. Or health and safety concerns can be written as perceptions of water quality and safety. So you see, you can divide them into themes and write your paper. However, if you write your paper only with what you have found, it is not supported by the participant ideas. So next step is finding supporting quotations from the participants. I mean, you need to get some quotations. You need to get direct responses of the participants. For example, for the theme environmental challenges, we can take this quote from participant 3. The biggest issue for me is probably plastic waste. Everywhere you go, you can see empty bottles like this. Or participant 8's quotation, I think companies use too much plastic packaging. So this is about environmental challenges. So you keep taking some quotations from the people, and the next message and the next step is to write your findings section in your paper. So here I have written half of it for you, and so from here you can take the you can take the template for yourself. For example, first you need to write a quick introduction. The analysis identified 3 main themes like environmental challenges, economic challenges, and health and accessibility challenges. These themes reflect the participants' perceptions of bottled water consumption. You say, first theme, environmental challenges, emerged from participants' concern about plastic waste and excessive plastic packaging. You say, several participants viewed discarded plastic bottles as a major environmental problem and believed that manufacturers use more plastic packaging than necessary. As one participant explained, the biggest issue for me is probably plastic waste. Everywhere you go, you can see empty bottles. So you can write participant 3 in braces. Another participant commented, I think companies use too much plastic packaging. So you can write the participant's number in the brackets. After that, you need to interpret what does this data mean to you. These responses indicate that participants associated bottled water consumption with negative environmental impacts, particularly the accumulation of plastic waste. So this is how you write your paragraph, like quick introduction, so interpretation of your theme, the quotations from your participants, and the interpretation. You can pause the video here and read the second paragraph. Your homework is to try writing the third theme yourself. Okay, now let's review the things that we have seen, or maybe the steps. So when you did your interview and collected this kind of raw data, first of all, do coding into something easy to understand and easy to categorize. After that, use these codes to find some categories or put these ideas into categories. Then rename these categories as themes. Take some supporting quotations from your participants and write your findings section in this order. So that's all about writing up your findings section. In the next video, we'll talk about how you write your results section. So happy researching!